I hope people listen to this far in the podcast because I think this is a very, very good question. Zika, for that. Thank you for that.
People gonna wait. Hold on. People are gonna listen this far. I mean, this has been an interesting discussion. I hope people are still here.
Yeah, no. I just feel like a lot of times people are so busy with their lives, busy. They always have excuses for why they're not doing something. Just even going to the gym, even things for their own life, right? Like, oh, have you sent
again, you're taking shots at me. I mean, just because I haven't gone back to running doesn't mean you have to go call me out again.
You see what I mean, right? Like it's something that you want to do, right? They want to listen to this podcast, but like life, reality, just I don't know, pulls them out to their default settings of whatever habits they were doing, right?
Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
Hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Shameless. I'm your host, Zika Gangaito, a T4L ambassador. And today we got none other than Mthabisi Bokete.
Lovely to meet you. I'm super excited to be on this podcast.
Mthabisi Bokete is the youngest serving board of director at Stanbic and the founder and CEO of Digital Natives. He is also the co-founder of WeDraft, a multilingual AI-powered legal services co-pilot platform, revolutionizing the legal service industry. Mthabisi has also won significant prestigious awards and competitions, including SADC Innovation Financial Investment Challenge, the Total Start-Upper Competition Botswana, to name a few, and holds the patent for Botswana's first digital mobile truck. Mthabisi continues to inspire and aspire to be an exceptional leader and entrepreneur. Thabi, I know that I butchered the whole introduction that you had, but please, maybe just give us a synopsis of what makes you you.
Thanks, Ziga, for the intro. Like, don't worry, we aren't always pieces of text on a document, right? A lot of the times, that question is very hard to answer. Who are we? What are we? What do we do? So how do we answer that question without actually speaking about what we do, right? Obviously, what I do is I transform lives with technology. With my company, Digital Natives, we build various products that handle with electricity. Easy peasy manages electricity. Dail X is basically an AI-powered sales agent for your company. So imagine Google for your company. It's able to sell your products, and internally it's able to optimize the different departments of your organization. So you can just imagine a situation where you're in HR or you're in IT or you're in the mining department and you're just asking, hey, how do I apply for leave? Or we're getting a new intern in this department. Draft a quick onboarding tool. And instead of using like ChatGPT, which is just over the world, this is specific to your policies of your organization, specific to your KPIs, specific to your recruitment and remuneration policies, aligning that as a response to these people. So like that's what Dail X does. And if you can call it, it speaks to you like, hey, hello, how are you? And it basically acts like a call center for your organization to sell products, services, render, debug, and basically resolve multiple things. So like that's what Digital Natives does and builds for people. I'm partnered with a friend of mine called Monty Khwanyani. He's most likely going to be on this podcast in the near future for sure. He's a great-minded individual as well. But other than that, who I am outside of what I do, I would say I'm a visionarily young-minded, wide-eyed, starry-eyed individual that sees the best or tries to see the best in grim situations, such as the life may be for an entrepreneur. And I love astronomy.
Astronomy?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is it about astronomy that you enjoy? I mean, that you love?
Astronomy is so beautiful. It has so many complex things about it. It has time dilations, the fact that you can look into space and you're seeing the past. So theoretically speaking, if I'm 25 light years away, I could see let's say whoever's listening to this podcast and is 25 years old, I could actually witness their birth. I could witness them when they're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old in real time. Well, not real time, but like because light is traveling back to my eye in this 25-year light year planet. So it has so many other complex things like black holes, anomalies, where I can get close to one and come back and 100 years would have passed, but I'm still the same age. So it just has a lot of little nits and grids that make reality seem a lot more interesting.
And Interstellar, all of those things just remind me of Interstellar. Now, trying to get back into the whole essence of why we're here.
Yeah.
What inspired you to actually go into this tech industry, digital natives and or WeDraft?
A lot inspired me. Most of the time, I classify myself as a very lazy individual. What I mean by that is I tend to find issues and problems for myself and then try to solve them. So in this case of like my first product, Get It Done, which is helping university students do tasks and errands for people within their community. What happens is university students do tasks for people around them. The reason I made this application is because I was trying to make money on the side. As an international student in Mauritius, I wasn't necessarily allowed to work the same amount of hours. So to get around that, I decided to make a platform, like a gig platform that allowed me to do once-off tasks and errands. That meant unlimited amounts of money I could potentially make just based off the ticket item. So if someone says I'm moving from point A to point B, 10K, but 10K. I'm not limited to the hourly rate of a restaurant or a thing like that. So it's always me getting to this space just came out of necessity, out of need, out of me trying to make myself do less work and get more out of things. And then that happened to help people.
And essentially, would you say that then technology has helped you sort of multiply your productivity?
Yeah, no, definitely. Technology is definitely a multiplier of productivity for me, and I'm sure everyone else around this podcast. And as of recent, artificial intelligence is like a mega catalyst to this. And that's a space that we've currently delved very deep in.
And so obviously you're relatively young, but you're also an entrepreneur. And you mentioned something about the sad life of an entrepreneur. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What are some of the challenges as an entrepreneur?
You know, I feel like entrepreneurship is like going to the gym. When you register a company, you think you're just going to make money. When you pay for the gym, you think you're going to get your six-pack. So it's the sadness is in the sense of, oh my gosh, now I actually have to work. The
reality is just sunk in now.
Right? It's like, I swear, I have a business account. Why is money not getting in there? And, salaries have to be paid and things like that. So it really hits me with that. But anyway, the sad life of an entrepreneur, it's like Elon Musk once said, chewing glass and staring into the abyss. Sounds very grim. But if you're a true entrepreneur, you'll understand that the space is lonely. It is dark and hard in some instances, but it's rewarding if you love what you're doing or you understand the true vision of what you're trying to achieve. Never, ever, ever do it for money.
And so maybe just a couple of things there then. How would you say that you've prepared your mind, or what tools do you use to allow for yourself to be able to go through the low parts, but also not get carried away by the high moments, such as when you've won certain Total sort of competitions? What aspects within your mindset have really helped you get through both the good times and the bad times?
Firstly, I just like to indicate that just being an entrepreneur has different meanings to a lot of people. Some people classify self-employed as being an entrepreneur. Some people classify being a tender, like winning tenders for government, as an entrepreneur. I see entrepreneurs as problem solvers and visionaries, or as innovators. And I hate calling myself an entrepreneur. I just love to be called an inventor, like my role model, Leonardo da Vinci. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that I do understand the nuances of entrepreneurship, and I'm not like trying to paint a blanket on what people might term as entrepreneurship.
All right, cool. So I'll call it an inventor going forward. Is that right now?
I would love that. Because I do try to invent solutions that are very useful to individuals. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but isn't that being a problem solver? Like, no, not exactly. Sometimes, I can sell clothes in a very nice, innovative way, or a new way, innovation. And then that's
still...
that's interesting. But I'm referring to like brand new
ideas.
Yeah, completely.
So what mindset have you had to build, and what tools do you then use in order to actually go through those lower points, and as well as the high points, or the things that inspire you?
Yeah. Getting back to that, it's like there are tools like the mindfulness app there is also, I'm very big, I'm a Christian, so I'm very big on like meditating on the Bible, on the word. It really does help, honestly. Listening to instrumentals, praying, breathing, and occasionally I would call it decompressing. It's a very strange way of doing it. It's almost like screaming into your pillow. like were you really
breaking tape glasses or
breaking
that sort of
glasses, you
stuff?
know? Yeah, you know, like really, like if I could afford those cheap glasses, I would break a couple. Like, you know, those crash rooms or those scream rooms, I would have that in my house. And a lot of the times it's biting the bullet, just taking charge, standing up. But like, yeah, like I said, there are a lot of days where it is dark, and there are a lot of days where it isn't so dark. And it's just being grateful all the time. Gratitude comes through the acceptance, comes through the understanding, and then it goes from there. Like, you're able to say, okay, it's not such a great thing that's happening. I've accepted it. I am grateful for it. Or you appreciate it, then you're grateful for it, and then you be happy. And when you're able to be happy and grateful for everything that takes place, I promise you, entrepreneurship is a better journey. Another thing that I have said in other speaking engagements is think of yourself like a cloud. Have you ever seen a badly designed cloud or a misshapen wave? Have you? Yeah. And that's what humanity is. They're still beautiful. They're still perfect in their weird and random shapes, and that's life. So in your entrepreneurship journey, the mistakes and the errors you come up with, just classify that as the different jagged edges around a cloud. It's still going to be perfect in the end. Your life is always going to be what it's supposed to be, I believe.
And that's really interesting, actually. What moments or experiences would you be able to share where you had to be grateful for something that was difficult to be grateful for?
Oh man. There are like quite a number of them, but I want to think of one that's quite significant that could stand out to or be more relatable to like the listeners out there. So I made a bad investment and I lost a significant amount of cash, upwards of 10K USD. And it financially injured me because this was very early on in my entrepreneurship journey, like quite early. So even having that kind of money was like, yeah, come on guys, let's do this. And then losing it was, yeah guys, come on, yeah, let's do this. But it's like, yeah. So what I accepted from that whole instance was, and it was very difficult, I won't lie to you, like it's not a fun thing, was, yes, the lessons are great, but I would like to learn lessons without losing money. Thank you very much. However, the main thing that I really realized is that human beings put value on things that are valueless. On my deathbed, I promise you I'm not going to be thinking, oh man, that 10 mil I lost, or that 10K I lost, or something like that. I'll be thinking of the relationships and the people around me. And that sensitivity check allowed me to be a bit more grateful for the moment in time that I'm in. I'm like, yeah, but I still have my parents, they're both there. I have my siblings, my family, they love me. I have my friends, my family, my business, my employees are still there. I still have this project that's running. They're still paying me. I started looking at all the things I could be grateful for, and it just sort of made that scenario and situation a blimp in reality.
And you know what's so crazy about what you just shared? There was a moment where, I think it was about 2 years ago, I had an operation on my ankle. Now, I was walking quite a lot, and I decided I'm going to start jogging. I'm going to try to hit some number by the end of the 6-month window in terms of running 5 kilometers. And in my running, I was all keen and psyched. I even got a watch for it, and I was on top of it. Then suddenly I started getting a pain in my ankle. Then I had to suspend any running.
Damn.
After a bit, I then went to a doctor who then referred me to somebody who specializes in ankles. And the first thing that the doctor said is that I need to get an x-ray. So I get an x-ray, and they see that one of my bones have actually slid about several degrees out. And I'm like, wait, but how? It's not like I was involved in some impact, but it was actually just something that happens. And he goes, well, we tend to see this in really old people and females. And I'm like,
I'm neither one of those two.
Ah. So you're asking me to pick, or what is this exactly? Nonetheless, I then had to get an operation on my ankle, and when they opened it up, because I was trying to push through the pain, I actually had torn a tendon, but beyond that, they shaved off the excess
Oh
bone.
wow.
But the road to recovery was actually a 2 to 3 month in terms of getting back onto my feet, in terms of walking. I had to wear a moon boot. But in that moment, I actually realized the gratitude that I needed to have for my own health, something that I was taking actually for granted. And so when you were talking about, I made a bad investment,
Yeah.
I had to accept it, I had to understand it, then I had to be grateful for the journey that I'd walked.
Yeah.
That just took me back to that. And at the end of the day, all we have are, we know the things that are important to us, and it's to be able to keep that North Star so that all the actions that we do actually are trying to get us to that place. And like I think you mentioned, society does not necessarily always favor every component of life equally.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it favors some things that don't necessarily bring value to you. And I think that's a very interesting thing.
Wow. So your story sounds very intense and like inspiring for a lot of athletes out there. I'm pretty sure it's like one of those things where you're like, dang. I'm actually curious as to, have you gone back to running? Have you started walking again? Are you back in? Yeah.
No, I actually haven't. So it's actually been a year, and I haven't started running. However, I do intend to start getting back on it, and it's just that certain things have taken priority at this point in time, and so I will get back on it. And my leg is still in one piece, so it's not that I'm not able to. It's that I just have different priorities right now that are currently taking up the
Okay,
majority
that's
of my
glad to hear. So like you can still like kick some butt.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, in something like that, in my mind, what ended up happening to me was that I ended up feeling a sense of being out of control. And so when I was out of control, I realized that there's certain things in life that I can control and certain things that I can't control. And the road to recovery, these are the only things I can control. How quick I recover is largely out of my control. My body is the thing that's going to dictate that. And I find that a lot of the time, people, whether entrepreneurs, employees, or just people going through their life, the mindset typically focuses on trying to control those things that are not necessarily in your control. And you exhaust and exhume a lot of energy just in that space, when in reality, focusing on something that you can control, and then having the patience, the gratitude, the understanding, the acceptance to walk that journey that needs to be walked. And that's also why I wanted to ask the question in terms of how you felt when you were in that sort of bad space prior to the acceptance, because acceptance actually can take some time.
Yeah, no, oh man, it is. Because the denial, I was like, what? Me? What? Make a mistake like this? Come on. What? No, I can't. This is craziness. I wouldn't do this. I didn't do this. How did this happen? And then I look back at myself and I'm like, wait, okay, this has happened. Okay, now what? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna get this back? Now I'm plotting, I'm planning, I'm trying to figure out how to way to like reconcile the whole situation. I'm disappointed in myself, I'm disappointed in the situation, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm like confused. It's like a plethora of various emotions that are just running through my mind and my body. The feeling physically was the sensation of just, I don't know if anyone's ever been in an accident or just before you get hurt or you're on a bike and you're about to hit a wall or trip or fall, like just that moments before you get into an accident, that sensation your body feels.
Yeah.
That is how it was. Yeah, that's how it was. It's like the brace for impact kind of feat. Yeah, that it tense up everything. Your insides are not feeling so great. You're worried that you could be dead. Yeah. And then yeah, so it wasn't the best feeling at all, honestly. I was like, yo. But once that all like sort of settled in and my bones became hard, like calluses on the bases of your heels, your body just goes, okay, I understand. Let's not let that happen again. Oh yes, another thing why entrepreneurship is really hard, guys. You will lose so much money. Man, if you hate losing money or spending money, don't be an entrepreneur. Don't. Like, I promise you, you will spend money. Like, you'll get a 200K income and spend 180 of that on various things, either laptops or insurance or salaries for somebody or an emergency something, or your car starts stop working. Something will just happen.
So it just keeps coming at you. When you think you get at the top, you then find something new.
I promise you, the money that you're making already has someone that wants it in your life, or something or someone that wants it in your life.
So you say try again, right? Now that whole notion of just try again, that's not always a very simple task. It's not a very simple thing. You say it like it is something that you're turning a switch to try again. Like, but if you're able to share what really picks you up to then say, I'm gonna try again. Failure is something that nobody wants, but failure is something that is inevitable upon trying. So how do you then combat the fear of failure and ensure that you do it again?
Anyways, in terms of like trying again, like I see trying again as a very delicate dance of intensities. What I mean by this is, trying again in people's heads generally means I went 9 to 5 and I failed. I'm going to go 9 to 5 again. No, trying again could also mean I'm going to go 9 to 3. I'm going to go 9 to 10. If indeed the situation does not allow you to return at the same intensity. So in the case, if you lose, well, how much money I lost, I'm not going to be able to go, here's another amount of that kind of cash, because where am I going to get that from? You see, so I come in with, okay, leveled, measured expenditure, processes, grow it back to the same amount, now spend it differently.
So what I've heard you say is that you could look back at the problem and then break it up into smaller chunks for you to then say, I'm going to give this particular thing in a more directed manner a bigger shot, having learned from the lesson from before moving on to the next bit. And then it becomes a dance of intensity.
Yes, 100.
Is that fair?
That is fair. And also another thing that people should really understand is that sometimes you don't learn a lesson and it's okay. That is something you need to understand. You're not always going to learn something from a misfortune that you experience. Sometimes it's just misfortune.
I don't know if I feel that feels kind of like sad, because surely you have to learn. You can learn. I mean, from an experience itself, you might learn emotions or see emotions, and therefore there's something to be said about that.
So yes, but in the sense of like loss specifically, the action of loss. The reason we even cry for loss is because we're self-centered creatures by nature. Who says what we have belongs to us? Who says? Who says the relationship you have is yours? Who says the phone you have or the car you have or the money you have is yours? This is all self-proclaimed in our minds, which then makes this feeling of pain, which should not even be there because it doesn't belong to you anyways. So it's a selfish position to be hurt. But like what I meant is, let's say you lost a mom or a dad or whatever. The lesson, you can't really learn a lesson. Like the lesson is everyone dies, I guess. But do we already know that? Is that something you're learning?
I guess
that's
fair.
It seems sad because we're selfish.
Well, I think in any situation, good or bad, and in particularly bad situations, there are things about yourself that you then need to be asking. You need to then be questioning whether or not the way you're processing and handling it and going through it, any shape, form of it, is that the healthy way to go about it? Is this something that would strengthen your mindset, would strengthen your resolve, will help you at a later stage. And so when I talk about, I feel like I should be able to learn from every experience, good or bad.
Yeah.
I also include the idea of reminding yourself that you're only human, that that there's a level of gratitude that is surrounding life, and all the things that are important should be X. And so though you've lost money, you're grateful for the ability to continue on the journey that you're on. And it doesn't mean that anything or nothing, or some of these experiences that we have, you won't find something within that. And I'm a strong believer that this life that we live always has something to give to us, as long as we're willing and we have the humility to try to understand what that is. If we don't, then we block out the idea and the opportunity for growth. And the most important thing is that inward growth and that mindset that you're trying to grow.
Yeah, no. So I'm fully aligned with what you're saying, and I agree with it. What I was mentioning is that you're not always going to learn something from misfortune. However, the perception that you gave an alternative of being grateful for something, being grateful for something else, or being happy you have a second chance to do it again, or just being aware of the scenario or the situation. So those aren't, for me, necessarily lessons in the same way. It's more of a reminder than a lesson. It's reminding yourself. Yeah, you can get something out of it. You definitely can get something out of any misfortune or even any fortune, the vice versa. But in terms of lessons, I don't think that they're uniform or consistent throughout either one, fortune or misfortune.
A reminder is not necessarily a lesson.
Yes.
So very fair, very 100%. And you know what? At this point, I've actually just remembered that I was supposed to start off with a quote. Now, this is actually the tradition at this T4L in Shameless, that I'm supposed to say a quote. And now we're halfway through the pod and I have not said the quote. So I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. And the quote is, once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with you. Now, I found that really topical based on what we were just talking about. And that's actually how I recalled that I had my quote that I wanted to share. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, as long as your mindset is ready and is prepared, then even the external world and your perspective, and it was the word perspective that you used, if you're able to find the perspective to gain value from an experience, a moment, then that is where you get your mindset and your experiences adding value to your journey. And so that is something that I actually really wanted to share in terms of a quote. Now, Thabi, I am very, very curious. You are the youngest board of director on the Stanbic Botswana board. And surely that must be a difficult space to be in terms of how do you contribute in a space where you're so young compared to everybody around you? How do you then add value, and how do you then get yourself to actually look to actually be relevant in that space? Because it's not necessarily that you're in the banking industry, but you're in a space where you're going to have to be relevant.
To be very honest, I won't say age is nothing but a number, but I really feel people at that level have such an open understanding to quality, output, and excellence that it's not even about your age, it's about what you're bringing to the table. In the sense that when I'm able to share or speak or communicate an idea to the rest of the board and them taking it into consideration or even into advisement to the rest of the bank, it's profound but also understandable, because they've understood, and I think they're the only organization in Botswana currently, correct me if I'm wrong, whoever is listening, that has even taken the risk or the chance of engaging an expert in their field in the ICT space to help them in their digital transformation journey, to then sit on their board as one of their, in fact, the chair of the ICT subcommittee. among other board seats that I sit on, which is all publicly available information. So nothing I'm saying here is confidential. It just allows for such a beautiful diversity of conversation. They are brilliant individuals on the board, more experienced than me, able to share instances and concepts and processes that I would not have thought of off the top of my head. So sharing what I know on the day-to-day and what's happening in this ever-transforming world of technology, alongside their understanding of industry and different aspects of industries, it makes this beautiful, beautiful cake. And they are able to hear me, I'm able to hear them, and it's not even a me versus them situation. We are such a collective, you wouldn't even tell that I was a young on the board. We're all the same in such a way that it's, and I'm not even trying to say this because Stanbic is the best bank in the world. I'm just saying it in the sense of they are really very good at like leveling the playing field. Like no one is above anyone else. Like we're understanding, we're able to communicate and share information, and it's amazing, honestly.
So then I just want to ask you a question then. You say what you're bringing to the table, and you also highlighted your ability to communicate the ideas. Now, how much prep work actually goes into being able to bring something to the table? And how much work did you do, or what prior experiences did you then go through in order for you to actually bring something to the table? And did you bring something to the table that was actually that you're surprised that, so this is what I'm bringing to the table? Like, okay, fine. I guess that's interesting.
There's a lot of prep work, guys. Like, what? There's something called board packs. Luckily, ours are digital. A lot of other institutions have theirs still on paper base, but we have a really cool tool that allows us to have digital things. So you can put notes and stuff. Some packs are like 400 pages. They expect you to read that. Like, understand it, read it, have actionable insights and information that can help guide or help us as board members exercise our statutory duty on the strategic direction of the bank. So we have a lot of reading to do. Different subcommittees have reading. Main board has reading. Special meetings have reading. Everything's read. If anything, I'm a lawyer. No offense to the lawyers. Like, there is a lot of reading, a lot of note taking.
And then if you were to draw back on, so let's say, for example, prior experiences that you had when in Mauritius, what would you say are the things that actually you currently are using? And these are in particular like the softer skills. It can be technical, but I'm interested in the softer skills, the things that have helped your mind be able to be there and be able to contribute and be able to challenge. And this could be before Mauritius, your experiences growing up. Anything that, because your character is a large component of what brings something to the table. And I think sometimes we underplay the experiences we had before, but also the experiences that we should be looking for in order to build that character.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of those experiences that have helped the mindset of you, for you, to be able to sit on a board?
Okay, so ever since I was young, I was an extremely, this is what my parents said, mischievous and naughty. Mischievous and naughty kid, in the sense that I would break things, open them up, see how they work, put them together, some cases successfully, some cases not. So direct translation, I was a very curious mind. I interrogated the way things operated, the way things behaved, the way things were processed and managed and implemented. And that interrogation and that enabled curiosity, I believe, allows me to understand difficult, complex concepts like engineering, like computer science, like artificial intelligence, in a more meaningful and simple way, because I have almost what you can call first principle understanding of certain things. Like, I'm able to like really dig down for that. And that specific skill set is really, really crucial as a board member, because you're always bombarded with a lot of data, a lot of information. And if you're unable to successfully like churn it out, understand it, and then regurgitate something that's useful, like an AI, I think it's pointless, right? So I think that my curiosity as a youth and that an ability for my parents to just allow me to be naughty and do things and be creative and understand different things and play with different things. And like I had a video. I don't know if you guys know Musically. I hope I'm not really beating my age by saying this, but just before TikTok bought this application called Musically, I had a profile there where I would disassemble things and then act like a magician and reassemble them. So it'd be like 2 frames.
Oh yeah.
Or like 2 different frames. I'll be like,
Bang bang.
a fully assembled NutriBullet. A NutriBullet, for those listening, is like a blender. You know how blenders are complex. They have like this plastic part. They have like their motor and all that other stuff. Anyways, I would have the screenshot there. Then the next snap would be a screwdriver in my hand. I would tap it and it would be disassembled. So during that 1 frame to the second frame, I am literally unscrewing every single component very meticulously, placing them across the table, understanding how those different motors work and processes work, and then reassembling it to work the same way it was when it was bought, which is a very, very difficult thing as a kid who likes to break things. Just that innate curiosity allows me to learn and understand a lot of different things about different topics. So even though I'm not in the banking industry specifically, I'm able to provide insights or information that is relevant to the bank to make very sound and impactful decisions on their way forward.
So I'm curious around sort of some of the challenges you currently face and anything that might hamper your personal growth or business growth, and in particular that is inward facing aspects that you feel that you need to work on for you to be able to grow personally. And this is probably that moment where we talk about something that an external person might view as not necessarily an issue, but you yourself, you feel as though you've got a lot of growth within that space.
I am now at a stage where I want to now improve what I'm already good at. I'd rather not try to improve what I'm not good at and find somebody that augments my weakness in that department. So my handwriting is not the neatest. I know that, right? So I'd rather get somebody whose handwriting is neat to do certain things for me. Right? I'm not going to now sit down and try to make my handwriting clean and legible for every single person to read it. I'd rather just type or dictate via verbal, voice to text. Like I'll find alternatives is what I'm saying. What I will then double down on is things that I'm strong at, which is maybe my analytical understanding of things or my tenacity or things like that. Deep weaknesses is my organization, my time management. Those 2 things, as a serial procrastinator and a lazy individual, as I have proclaimed in the beginning of this voiced video, even though I've been able to achieve so many things, I believe I could have been way, way further. And in some instances, I hear very successful people talking about their journey and what they've done and things like that. And I'm like, oh, man, I really could have done this way quicker and better if I just wasn't so procrastinated and orientated. So I do think that I need to work on.
But maybe just to touch on that idea of procrastination and also time management, I think some of the major aspects around motivation are centered around purpose. And so you have to really believe and really want something in order for you to continue on that road of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you feel as though you've wanted something, but there was a lack of discipline towards getting there?
I agree with the first one. However, it's neither, in the sense that I've always, and which is very strange, I have this weird self-sabotage / fear of being successful. A lot of people...
Wait, so you've got a...
Yeah. I've got like this weird...
All right. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me? I hope there's no fuzzy sound on my side.
Yeah, there's a fuzzy sound on your end, but now it's clean. So I was just gonna say, you're actually telling me about self-sabotaging. What do you mean by self-sabotaging?
Yeah, so I was saying like this weird self-sabotage feeling that I get where I have this fear of success. Even though a lot of people could see my life and say this guy's successful, but where I want to be, I'm not as successful as I could be. And it's like I do an intentional, if I do this, I know I'll get this. And I've always had this ever since I was young. I was able to know if I do this and this, I'd win this competition and then I'd place first. Or if I do this and this, I would get this or get that or do this. It's a gift and a curse because I know it works so well that I fear that if I get too successful, I have too many responsibilities, and then my procrastination self will be held accountable a lot more often than it would be in the state that I'm currently at, where I can manage this level of accountability when I'm now a multi-million US dollar company in and around Africa. It's like, oh my gosh, more responsibilities. I can't run away to my procrastination haven if I wanted to, which is weird.
And so what tools, and so I'm going to actually consider that one of your greatest fears is success, and that results in self-sabotaging. So what would you say are one of the biggest tools that you're currently using in order to be able to help you overcome this fear, in order for you to be able to step into the greatness that actually awaits for you? What would you say are some of the greatest tools available for you?
Okay, so a lot of the times I want to dial back to two things, mainly, three things to be honest. The first one being my immediate network, my family, my friends, my parents, my siblings, and the conversations I do have with them, and even my partner, and how they motivate, how they believe in me, and how I don't want to disappoint them. Then the second one is my why. My why am I doing this? I'm trying to do this, and I think it was ordained. And this is where it goes to the third one, which is God. But the second one, I think it was ordained, where I say, my why is help those who cannot help themselves. And I owe it up to myself to be able to do that, because God gave me this gift and this ability to be able to process, understand, and implement in a certain way that is effective, valued, and paid for, that a lot more people struggle to get to this stage as quick and as easy as I did in the eyes of society. So why not double down on that so that I can do what I was called to do, which is help those who cannot help themselves. So that why, with my immediate network, and the fact that the third one being God has basically told me to do this, allows me to now get out of this space more often. Like as of recent, I've really been heading face down. Like January has been my most profitable month since 2 years.
I find it very interesting when you talk about network and your why. And the reason why I think that is important, especially the network part.
Mm.
When you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, people who are thriving and aspiring to be where you are, that journey of when you are down becomes a lot easier for you to be picked back up from.
Mm.
And further than that, you find a purpose within the networks that you're surrounded by. And sometimes the solution doesn't have to come from within. Solutions are solutions as long as they solve the problem, regardless of where they've come from. And so I think that when having people around you, your network is some of the biggest and strongest aspects to it. And I'll give you a different example from my end. I've always had, I don't think necessarily I communicate well. And so in doing that, sometimes I can process something, but I'll process it by myself. And then I'll make a decision by myself. And then the decision, once read back to me or once we discuss it, is actually very far from an ideal solution, because I actually didn't leverage my network. I wasn't expressive and I didn't share my thoughts with different people. And I typically find that our ability to leverage our network, that is from a support basis and more than anything, is some of the largest benefits that we could actually do to the journey of growing our mind. And I've found that to be one of the most interesting parts of my growth and journey within the transformational leadership space. And so that's why I found the idea when you said network is such a powerful thing. And then obviously why. If somebody understands their reason why, they'll find the means to do it. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful aspects for me. And so I resonate so well with those two. But Thabi, we're gonna be wrapping this up now. And I have a question. Like, your favorite piece of advice or the best quote that you've ever heard. What would you put there as your top 5, or your one? Actually, I'm only asking for one. What would that one quote or piece of advice that you'd like to actually leave the listeners with?
That's a very tough one, right? I would have liked to give them more than just one, but I will see what I can do. What about a philosophical perspective on life? Maybe that might be better than a quote. How they could maybe, yeah. So I know probably people think I'm a philosopher in my pastime. I'm not, I swear. I'm kidding. I never said anything that's super, super profound. However, what I do think is the meaning of life. A lot of the times, I went on a trip in Ghana recently, and somebody asked me what the meaning of life was. And when I did answer it, obviously, again, I believe it came from God. The way they understood it was exactly how I intended it to be understood, but others didn't necessarily understand it. So for those who are listening, I hope you fall on the former, not the latter. The meaning of life is you, by living, are answering that question, because life itself is asking you that question. Life is asked DK and Thabi, what is the meaning of life? And our response to that is the answer by how we live and what we do and when we do it. This is the lazy days you've had, the fun times, the sad, the procrastinations, the successes, the failures, the ups and the downs, collectively, is one answer to life. And every human being that has ever lived in their finite string of life collectively becomes the full answer to the meaning of life. So your life, my life, and everyone else who's listening's life collectively is answering the question, what's the meaning of life? And because of that, it is up to you to decide how you want to answer that question for yourself in what you do on a day-to-day. Stay transformational. Stay being a leader.
Well, that then marks the end of the next episode of Shameless. I would like to thank you, Mthabisi, for joining us today. I had a lot of fun in this discussion, very easy flowing, and obviously ended up being a lot longer than I had initially planned. But I really do appreciate you taking up the time today. And like mentioned before, Digital Natives is a AI-based, technology-based company that focuses on anything technologically based. Then there's WeDraft, which is the multilingual AI-powered legal services co-pilot platform, revolutionizing the legal industry. And
there's Dail X in South Africa as well. I can run off those quickly if you don't mind.
Please go for it.
Yeah, so Dail X basically allows businesses and corporates, large and small, super advanced sales agents like a Google for their company. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, as well as allowing you to help and optimize internal documentation. So for example, a new database system has been introduced, but there's a PDF that's 1,000 pages long. You upload into our system, it will learn it, and then you're able to ask it questions to help you debug in the IT space. In the HR space, you're able to create onboarding tools tailored against your policies and processes for your organizations. That's Dail X, and you'll be able to soon in the future call these organizations on this one number, Dail X being one number, and it will be able to service you in multiple ways. You could order your pizza while helping resolve a bank fraud in one call without having to be switched on to different people. And then with Stock Africa, it's an agricultural commodity platform, wholesale food security product that basically allows for country to country trade, or even just large organization to large organization trade. It's like a very holistic, large scale broker for various specific agri commodities, which you can look it up on stock.africa. That's it. Not .com, not .co. It's literally stock.africa. With Dail X, it's dailx.co. With WeDraft, it's WeDraft. Like you draft an NDA, you draft an LSA, SLA, and then a .co. So WeDraft.co, DailX.co, stock.africa are the main products that we currently are pushing.
Absolutely brilliant. And what we will have in the links and the bio, you'll be able to find all these different ways to be able to get in touch with Mthabisi. And we wish you all the best in your journey, Thabi, not only within the businesses that you're running, but in more so than anything, within the brand that you're trying to build, within the person that you're trying to grow to. And so that personal journey that you're on, fight on, keep on, and thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me. And I would love to come back in the future as my journey progresses. Like, you guys have an amazing channel, and what you're doing here, your vision is amazing. Your vision and mission for the whole team at Transformation Leader. I want to say hi. Thank you for having me, guys. You're doing a great job today. Thank you.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we embark on our mission to impact 1 million African lives by 2026.